Max Verstappen was crowned world champion for the fourth time in Las Vegas, completing a feat against at least two faster teams almost always since the Miami GP in the spring and continuing what is one of the most successful eras in F1 history. His fourth crown, like the first in 2021 against Hamilton, was achieved without having the best car and with 2 races to go, which gives him the aura of a driver who is capable of breaking the maxim of this sport. Fernando Alonso was one of the first to congratulate him on the track. Today's 5th place, with the wrong wing and revamped with a radial in the middle of the Grand Prix, illustrates that difficulties spur him on, far from intimidating him. He could be the driver to beat Schumacher and his 7 titles, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who will go to Ferrari, but where he will have a Leclerc in the middle to avoid his long for 8th. Ferrari seems today the favorite for 2025, by the way it has finished the year, but the new Red Bull car could take the lead again, if they correct some erratic things of this course. Max was fast enough to finish ahead of Lando Norris 6th by no less than 8 seconds, until the Englishman stopped to make a fast lap on the last lap looking at the Constructors' World Championship. One of the best in history. The last driver to achieve 4 consecutive crowns with Red Bull was Sebastian Vettel, who in the hybrid era stopped winning from 2014 and never again opted for the championship with either Red Bull or Ferrari, despite having a car that won races and could lead over Mercedes in the middle of the season. He went into a spiral of his own mistakes in his time at Maranello, so he was cut and ended his days at Aston Martin and very harassed by Lance Stroll in performance. He was not a driver of the era, but he did have a dominant car like few others, sometimes 2 seconds faster than Alonso's Ferrari. Verstappen, Hamilton or the Spaniard are in another place in consideration as drivers of unique hierarchy. The 403 points that the Dutchman has, compared to Lando's 340, make him already unreachable with 60 points still to be disputed. His tears as he spoke to the team on the radio illustrated how tough this year has been for him. Mercedes won 2. George Russell won with one hand, unapproachable for the Ferraris and Verstappen, while Lewis Hamilton completed the double that fuel prevented at Spa in August, in a weekend where the W15 adapted to the cold better than anyone else and kept the massive graining of all its rivals at bay. George put ground between himself and the rest of the field from the start, and Lewis climbed no less than from 10th to overtake the McLarens, Verstappen and the Ferraris, and even ended up closing in on his teammate. Mercedes' sawtooth performance has been the most pronounced of the 10 teams on the grid. Sainz, podium 26. Despite the fact that Ferrari did not find the pace it expected in the race and its tires were falling apart due to the graining of the outer layer, both Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc ended up finding the right rhythm without fuel to pass Verstappen at the end. Sainz wanted the win, but the Mercedes were out of range. Despite everything, it was his 26th podium in F1. After overtaking Leclerc on track, he lost out at the start and then in the pits due to a team error twice, and Verstappen, with a masterful maneuver at the first attempt. Ferrari also cut McLaren's lead to just 24 points in the battle for the Constructors' Championship. Qatar should be a track for the papaya, but Abu Dhabi could be for the red team. It's one of the few interesting things left from now on. Sainz is 9 points behind 5th-placed Piastri in the championship, and that is one of his goals. Alonso, an unnatural comeback to 11th. Fernando Alonso was another who defied the performance and the simulation computer. He risked going out on softs, overtook Checo at the start, changed tires on lap 4 and then had to go dosing 2 sets of hards. Perez came at the end, with 4 laps to go, to take away the 10th and leave him 11th, but we are talking about a Red Bull against an Aston Martin, which closed the classification with Stroll. Fernando does not understand the impossible, and instead of relaxing and waiting until 2025, he fights every meter for a single point or position, which is the trait of his character that has taken him so far and that should make him win the 33rd next year or in 2026. If Aston manages to get its new tools and Newey at the helm to work, it will have the Spaniard ready to take him to the top. It seems far away, but it is much closer than it seems. Las Vegas GP 2024. First G. Russell D. Mercedes 50-50. Second L. Hamilton D. Mercedes. Third Carlos Sainz D. Ferrari. Fourth C. Leclerc D. Ferrari. Fifth M. Verstappen D. Red Bull. Sixth L. Norris B. McLaren. Seventh O. Piastri R. McLaren. Eighth N. Hülkenberg D. Haas. Ninth Y. Tsunoda D. RB. 10th S. Perez D. Red Bull. 11th Fernando Alonso D. Aston Martin. 12th K. Magnussen D. Haas. 13th F. Colapinto R. Williams. 14th G. Joe D. Stake. 15th L. Stroll D. Aston Martin. 16th L. Lawson D. RB. 17th E. Ocon D. Alpine. 18th V. Bottas D. Stake. 19th A. Albon D. Williams retired. 20th P. Gasly D. Alpine retired. Carlos had a slow start and had to move to close Gasly, but Charles came from behind and passed the Spaniard to move into second. Alonso gained the position over Checo and Magnussen and moved up to 14th. It didn't take long to account for the Alpine. Ahead, Leclerc was going all out for the lead from Russell, with a touch included, and Alonso was going to the pits to leave the soft and put the hard compound. Sainz overtakes Leclerc and is second again. He threw himself at the end of the straight. He had the wheels touched, and Sainz, who took care in the first laps, was going for Russell, who had 3 seconds of advantage. And Verstappen passed him on lap 8 to move into third place. The World Championship was more than his at that point. The media came crashing down on Ferrari. Mercedes was flying and Hamilton moved up to 5th. Leclerc pitted, as did Norris. Russell was leaving and Sainz's tires were also worn. Carlos was overtaken by Max on lap 10 and Sainz stopped on lap 11 to put on the hard tire. He returned in 12th place ahead of Leclerc. Ferrari's graining calculations had not worked out in any way. Max stopped on lap 12 and returned 6th, while the Mercedes were first with Russell and second with Hamilton. Sainz passed 3 cars and moved up to 5th, while Hamilton stopped and returned 9th behind Norris. Fernando 13th v16. Alonso attacked Gasly, who had started 3rd, and took the position to move up to 13th. Sainz 3rd v17. He passed Checo, who had not yet stopped and was 2 seconds behind Verstappen. And Alonso was 11th, after passing Albon on track. After Checo's stop, Fernando was 10th, although he was then passed by Albon and Hulk, so he was 11th. Fernando's second stop, v25. Halfway through the race, the Spaniard was already on his second set of softs and it was halfway through the race. Behind him, Leclerc was closing in on Carlos and keeping Hamilton at bay. Sainz was on his pace, but his teammate was flying. Carlos was on the canvas and had to stop again. He let Leclerc pass and Hamilton tried to undercut him and stopped in the pits to come out behind Verstappen in 6th. Leclerc was second and Sainz 3rd. The Ferrarata. Carlos could not pit on lap 28 because his mechanics were not ready. He stopped for the second time on lap 29, and returned 6th behind Hamilton. Sainz overtook Leclerc L32. After Leclerc's stop, Sainz caught up with him and overtook him on track with hot tires. He was 4th and Hamilton 2nd after passing Verstappen. At the moment he was getting closer to the points while Checo was coming from behind as well. Sainz's incredible overtake on Verstappen. From a long way back, he took the stickers off the Dutchman to move up to 3rd. Leclerc overtook the Monegasque V46 and moved up to 4th, but Max was champion ahead of Norris 6th. Ahead, an uncontested 1-2 for Mercedes.